Evening, everyone. Welcome to Sports Unplugged on this lovely Friday evening. Hope you're all doing well. Joined tonight by Jay and Chris. We've got so much to get into tonight, so we're just going to crack straight on into it. Go to with Chris first. Chris, you been following the Ashes?
Yes.
How you been finding it? How's your bum?
Yeah. To be honest, I was still going, fucking hell, me and Kevin going to talk with us on Friday, going, it could actually be over by Thursday. That's hell. So they're rubbish. But then they actually found a bit of bollocks last night. The captain and Marlon, 80 and 86 between them. So they're only 58 behind now. So they actually look like they're going to make Australia bat again, which I'll be honest, I didn't see that coming. So now, they have that little thought in my head going, are they going to do it in 2010 or just bat a day? But to be fair, the last time we did that, we had Andrew Strauss, Trott, and
Jonathan
Cook.
Trott was like a wall, wasn't he? He was just like nothing was going to get past. But that was the difference.
Alistair Cook was averaging a double 100 most games right back then. You're like,
I watched the first day, watched the toss. England won the toss and decided to have a bat. They didn't do the Nasser Hussain and decided to put him in at Brisbane, which is a good thing.
No, but just naive. Very naive batting.
Yeah, it was almost a case. Look, they were undercooked going into it because they've had so many days washed out, and most of the players that are there are coming off the back of a T20 World Cup and T20 tournaments around the world. So here you are landed in Australia, and you've got three fast bowlers at 145 kilometers an hour, whizzing the ball around your nose when it's like moving sideways and doing all of those lovely good things. And England forgot how to leave the ball alone.
Yeah, they got very excited. I mean, but this is the problem England got at the moment is, and look, it's not their fault, but England have been spoilt for years. When you had an opening partnership with Trott and Strauss, sorry, not Strauss, Cook and Strauss. And then
Trott coming in at 3.
Trott's coming at 3 and Peterson coming in at 4. At some point, one of them 4 is going to hit it off before you get to the middle order. The problem we've got now is they've got Joe Root, who's the only world-class batsman they've got, and then the top 3, they're all young, or they're all inexperienced. And this is kind of like, you're going to have to grin and bear it until you find the right partnership. They've all got a bit of talent, but on the day, they can be really good. But the frustration was, Water gets 94, but he actually got bowled out in 17, and it's a no ball. It's like real basic stuff and real basic drops. They could probably have restricted Australia to about 300 if they were. I mean, unfortunately, Head, just the lad middle order.
Travis Head, and apparently he was playing for his place as well. So, I mean, look, my biggest gripe and worry for England for the series is Jack Leach. I mean, he went, I have it written down because I didn't want to forget it. 13 overs, 102 runs for one wicket. At a strike rate at an average of 7.38. Australia do this all the time to touring sides where they'll target a bowler and hit him out of the attack. And with Ben Stokes having a dodgy knee, that leaves England down to 3 bowlers, and Mark Wood is prone to injuries.
Well, apparently he's got a knock, but he can bowl. So with how bad the dodgy knee is, it could just. I mean, to us, poor Stokes, because of him taking a break for his mental health. He's not played since April.
No, exactly.
So it's easy to say in hindsight, but I don't know why you didn't play Stuart Broad. As soon as Anderson went out injured,
you had to.
Broad is our second highest wicket taker in that side. Bit of experience. I mean, listen, to be fair, the young fellow Robinson did really well. Wood actually looked quite dangerous.
He did.
Leach just looked like he'd won a competition. I'll be honest. The better player was actually the better spin bowler was actually Root.
Joe Root is so underrated as a spin bowler, as a part-time spinner, and you've got a leg spin option as well up the order in one of the batsmen. I can't remember which one it is, but he's a part-time leg break bowler for his county. Like Mallon, I think Mallon bowls a bit.
Mallon can do it a bit, but and then your backup is Bess, who again is a young spinner. Young spinner.
But I went to bed last night fully expecting England to be all out by the time I got up this morning. And surprise, the 2 openers did okay. They learned a bit. They left pretty well. Got a decent total up. But then the 2 that came in, Joe Root as a captain. We needed a captain's innings, and in he comes, 86. Had a decent clip as well. Not a runner ball like Travis Head, but decent enough for test pace. And he did all right. I was quietly impressed with him.
Lord Duffy's got. I've played this game before, Lord. It's all right. When he talks F1, don't worry. Look, I've got my pillow ready. So
that's all right. Jay's me F1 buddy for tonight.
Yeah,
we're good.
Jay and Kev talk F1. I'll have a sleep.
But how do you do you reckon it goes into another day after today?
I hope so. I quite like to take to the 5th day. I mean, look, just part of me thinks they're not going to. But that's because I've always thought England's batting lineup's been flaky for probably a good year, 18 months, because it's brand new. They've actually half-time been relying on middle order, but Butler, you can't expect Butler to keep doing one of those magic innings. They happen now and again, but they happen more in one-day cricket than they do in Test cricket. Pope looks a decent batsman. Best was probably a little unlucky not to get on the side, but I think the one you got thrown below that is Wokes. Can be quite handy.
He can bat a bit.
He can bat a bit if you get him in. But I mean, the other lads,
they're 3 Courtney Walshers, aren't they? Let's be fair.
Yeah, the 3 walking wickets. That's the thing with them. Just bolt at them. Just tell them hold the bat there and let it. That's the reason they stay in.
Paulie's spot on there. Cricket is great for the insomniacs. A large reason why I got into cricket, because I was working in a factory and we were doing night shifts, and all of the lads were into it. I mean, here's this Irish fella living in England, no fucking clue what the fuck's going on. And I started listening to TMS overnight with the lads that I was working with, and I got into it that way. It was weird. So I really got into it from radio commentary over watching it on telly, and then I got hooked into it then. England notoriously don't ever do well at Brisbane anyway. But
England don't notoriously do well in Australia, full stop.
Yeah. For the sake of the Ashes series and for England in general, the thing is, Australia do have very quick bowlers. The longer you can keep them in the field, even if it's a losing effort, it doesn't matter. If you're going to lose, make them bowl a long time. Make them put miles into the legs. And the knock-on effect might be felt as the series goes on.
They need to target changes that way. They need to target Stark and the spinner.
Yeah.
Because I think India did that.
India tried with Nathan Lyon, but he's not the Nathan Lyon of a few years ago.
No, and India sort of found a way of getting around him. So I think that's what England do. The other two, Hazelwood and Cummins, it's just like try your best against them, because they're just ridiculously good.
Yeah, they're world class, aren't they? Mm. Right. Well, the thing is, there's so much sport on this weekend between the UFC and boxing. We'll touch on those lightly because it annoys me the boxing is on DAZN. It's just another subscription that most people just won't get because it's exclusively boxing. I know it's cheap and cheerful. But Jay, you got 2 decent fights this weekend. Katie Taylor's fighting with her undisputed title up on the line again. 5 titles up for grabs with Katie Taylor. And Conor Benn against Al Jazeera is the main event in Liverpool. This is huge for Conor Benn. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's make or break because he's only 25, but he's in an elite division. He's got to do something with this. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? He's got. The thing is, both fighters got really good records, But obviously, one of them is undefeated in Conor Benn, which is great for him. But they're quite well matched, is what I think. And I can't call it. I'll be honest, I can't call it. I want to call it for Ben, but I can't call it.
Yeah, I think Al Jazeera is mixed in better company. He's lost to elite level fighters, but Ben at 19-0. I don't really look at 19-0. I don't really look at. That 10 or 11 of those wins are padded.
Yeah.
So it'll be a hell of a fight. And the thing is, it's nice to round off the year on a kind of a main event like that. You're the main man, and that 2022 it's set up for you. So it'd be a good card all the way down. But the Taylor fight for us over here, I mean, Katie Taylor is held up there as one of the, she's the elite sportswoman that this country has ever produced. She's up there with the likes of Sonia O'Sullivan for name recognition and who she is and what she can do. But at the back of my head, I'm thinking, how much more is in there motivation-wise for someone like Katie Taylor? Because unless she moves up in weight, there's not many fighters. I mean, this fighter she's coming up against tomorrow night, Sharapova. She's 19-1. Sorry, 11. Yeah, it might be 11-1, something like that. I don't know where the challenge is going to be for Katie Taylor going forward.
She did say, didn't she, that she aims for 2022 to be one of her best years. And again, the motivation there's something going on in the back of her mind where has she got a point to prove, or does she not have that point to prove? And you think to herself, well, if I'm coming out saying that, it's quite ambitious, really. But I again, you can't call it, because is the legacy going to be tarnished if she does get beat, or is it going to be a case of, well, yeah, she smashed it to the end of 2021, was a really good fight, and then obviously going into 2022, which is what she wants to do. She wants to achieve big things next year. So again, it's another one. It's a tough call.
It is. It's one of those. I'm gonna have to have a word with her indoors. Katie's on the telly. He's on this channel. It's only this. So I'll cancel it after. I promise. Chris, UFC.
Oh yeah, that's like boxing, isn't it?
Amanda Nunes against Pena, and Portier.
Say, come on, you're the expert here. You're the expert here. Come on.
We were chatting to Callum the other week, and Callum pulled me up because I pronounced Portier's name wrong. This is going to be a huge card on BT Sport on Saturday night. I would say, Chris, do you have any views on it? Because for me, Amanda Nunes is a freak.
Yeah,
she's a two-weight world champion, and that's just almost unheard. She's been a two-weight world champion now for a good while, and to do that in the UFC where the weights aren't 6 or 8 pounds different, it's like 10 or 12 or 15 pound difference. She's an absolute phenomenon. I actually record it and I'll watch it back. But
I think that's what I'll do. I mean, I sort of fell out of UFC because you can't watch everything, especially when GSP retired. But in the last probably 2-3 months, I've really got back into it. Partly talking to Callum, who keeps bullying me into trying it. So I keep not trying it, as in try and get watching it, not actually trying it. Christ almighty, no one wants to see that. So I quite like it because I go into all these fights with pretty much no preconception of who's good, who's bad. So I just literally, it's like purist watching it, going like, it's like when people say there's no neutrals of all. I'm pretty much like that with UFC. I was watching, going, I have no idea who's good. I suppose the hype back, and you go, let's see what happens. So I've enjoyed the last 2 or 3 UFC fights because I've had no preconceived ideas of who I think should win. So I've quite enjoyed them, but you can sort of tell the hype around is different. As in, this is one of the big fights. There's a difference between a UFC main event and a big one. This does feel like one of the big ones. So I'm
like you there, Chris. It's not a sport I've ever been like fully invested in, but I love the drama around it. And for me with UFC now, I love the fact how much it's come on in the last 10 years. I just love what Dana White's done for the sport. I just think it's brilliant, and where we're at now, and there's so many more females that are doing it, which is just unreal. Because going back to 2013, 2012, it was still really, really early for the females, and now they're arguably dominating it, and it's
well, even Dana White said, no one wants to see that, and he was proven wrong with that. If I'm honest, if you gave me the choice at the moment, would you want to watch boxing or UFC? I'll watch UFC. I actually think it's more entertaining, and it's better quality fights. Boxing now is a combination of YouTube fighters, which I've got no interest in watching, men past the best, men coming out of retirement to fight, and you're like, I'd like to have seen this fight when they're in the prime. I don't want to see guys who've been retired 3 or 4 years and then pay 25 quid for the pleasure. Not for me, that. So
this is where I think boxing is falling down massively. Is this? You got the alphabet soup champions. At least with UFC, there's one champion. There's a top 10. There's a ranking that's real, and the only way to climb the rankings is to beat who's ahead of you. And put yourself in a position that way. It takes longer to get the fights that you want to see, but when you do, it's shit or burst time. Do you know what I mean? For all these fighters, and there's some cracking fights coming up early in 2022.
But even if you watch UFC, if you watch Bellator or something else, it's the same layout. It's the same layout. So there isn't 3 champions at the same weight. It's 1. The only time you have 2 is when sometimes they have an interim champion when the main champion's like
vacated or
there's an injury or there's a reason why they can't fight, and then they just do a big unification fight, and they're always brilliant.
It's winner chicken dinner, isn't it? With those,
it's like the old Vince McMahon way of doing things, which I quite like.
Yeah, must admit,
me and Jay are on the same wavelength for that sort of stuff.
Do you know what? It's one thing I've lost love of that because I was so into the WWE for years, and only in the last 2 or 3 years I've just stopped watching it. Ever since it's gone off Sky, I think it's out of the limelight. But
it has lost the edge. To be honest, the other company that's appeared now, AEW, it's actually made it a bit more entertaining. It's a bit more fun, and you just take it for what it is. I say to people who get really upset over why do you watch it? I said, do you watch Corrie? Yeah, it's drama, isn't it? Yeah, it said that's basically what it is. It's a fighting drama. And actually, biggest criticism of wrestling isn't the athleticism. It's that story's rubbish. That makes no sense. And that's the idea behind it. That's the point. That's what people criticize it for. What you're watching now is the story.
Dave Lennon in the chat there. Look, Dave, 10 o'clock start. You missed the boat. I'm sorry. We're just not going back.
Oh, Dave, I've just done a 20-minute monologue about how much I think golf's crap. You missed it. I'll tweet at you later. Yeah, me and Dave have a great chat about golf. Well, he tells me about golf. Yeah. It's a sport I can't get into. I can't say it when Gav's on the show because he'll batter me. Because I know a lot of guys
Gav controls the mute button, so
he does. It's just a sport I've never got into. I've generally just never got into it. I watched it a couple of times. It's just not for me. But loads love it.
I love the Ryder Cup. I love the majors.
I did admit to Dave, I do watch the Ryder Cup, especially if I think Europe are going to win because it's great watching Americans get really upset.
Yeah,
it's really. But that's more because I just like being a wild merchant.
We love you, mate.
You're fucking good at it as well, mate.
Jay, one thing. Chris was saying you're mad into ice hockey.
Yes.
Right? Now, our beloved owners, who are, for me, in fairness, not far from the worst of them. Not the best, but they're all right. They've gone out and bought themselves a new ice hockey club. Do you want to explain the ins and outs of the deal and what it means for them, what it means for us? And does it have a crossover for LFC sales, for merchandising, and vice versa with Penguin stuff coming on sale? And, is there a quid pro quo for all of the franchises that FSG own, which is expanding at a rate of knots at the minute?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the one thing I will say about this deal is this isn't a deal where John Henry and FSG have just woke up one morning and go, right, I want to buy an ice hockey team. He's actually wanted to do this since 1990. So he's had his eye on a hockey franchise for a long, long time. And a lot of his fortune was put aside to buy one eventually. It's just he was always looking at the right market to go into. Now,
looking at the Bruins more than...
Well,
keep it.
It all depends on the prospect. Now, the Bruins have not a really good franchise in hockey, and they've, they were one of the original 6, and they've had loads of success, but they've not had a lot of recent success. Within the last 10 years, they've won a Stanley Cup, but the Penguins have had a better dynasty. But the idea behind the Penguins is how they can redevelop that franchise. Now they have. Sidney Crosby, who is arguably one of the greatest, or not, if the best player in the world right now, is between Connor McDavid for Edmonton and Sidney Crosby for the Penguins. It's between those two. It's like Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Those arguments of who's the better one. And at the end of the day, you just got to hold your hands up and say they're really, really good, both of them. But from FSG's point of view, to go from a financial perspective, the money that Redbird invested, a lot of that money was down for this franchise to be purchased.
Okay.
The Redbird thing was picked up by an English press and gone, boom, we'll relate that to Liverpool, and all of a sudden transfer fees and we're going to have loads more money and stuff like that. That was never ever the case because FSG want to build a dynasty of lots of sports franchise. Now, like you said, mate, they could have looked at the Boston Bruins, but they didn't. They looked at the Penguins because of the location, the fan base. The Pittsburgh Penguins are one of the best supported.
In football terms, who would you compare where Pittsburgh are to say in the Premier League or European football?
I would definitely say they are around Manchester United, but better in terms of they can still compete, but they're probably not gonna.
They got a proper manager.
You are?
Have they got a proper manager?
Yeah, they've got a really, really good coach.
Oh, well, that's where the difference is then. Fair enough.
So yeah, so you'd say like Manchester United, where they've got Sidney Crosby and Manchester United have got Ronaldo, but they've peaked off since they won back-to-back Stanley Cups in 2014, 2015. So they've dropped off quite a bit, but the model and their business model is really good because it's been run by Mario Lemieux, who we spoke about earlier, Kev, who's ran that club really, really well for years. So now it's in FSG's hands, and there's rumours that FSG were going to move them and take them away from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's a very American thing.
That is not going to happen.
Happened to my club when I was living over there, and they sailed off, I think, to Nashville. I think they were moved from Hartford to Nashville, and it ripped the heart out of the whole city because it was the only major sport that was in Connecticut as a state. Yeah.
Absolutely.
As a professional sport, that was it. There was nothing else. I mean, now they've got UConn and UConn basketball and UConn, mainly women's basketball, to be fair, is where they're one of the best in the country. But I think the deal was north of $800 million or something stupid.
Yeah, it's
not chump change.
No, it's not. It's close. Like I say, it's close to $1 billion. But again, this is something that's been earmarked for a long time for John Henry, and he's really, really wanted to invest in a hockey franchise. But he wants his finger in every American sport, and he's got that now. You know what I mean? But in terms of affecting Liverpool Football Club, it's not going to take money away from Liverpool.
No, yeah.
Transfer.
But hang on, Jay. Twitter said they used our January transfer budget for it. He told me that's not true.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm telling you right now, that's not true.
Wow.
In fairness, if our January transfer budget was $800 million, we'd have a totally different show tonight. I can guarantee
Twitter got it wrong again.
I understand, but you've got to understand where the fan base is coming from, because we care the most about Liverpool. We don't care about Pittsburgh and all that stuff. And I understand where they're coming from, but at the end of the day, Liverpool is not FSG's number one priority. They're probably level with every other franchise they've got. And where they're going to go. Liverpool is one of the most valuable, if not the most valuable property that they own.
Yeah, that's because at least, it's the one thing that we are a global brand.
Correct.
Whereas the Red Sox have, if you said the Red Sox, it's baseball, it's Boston. That has global recognition, but Liverpool is a global. Pittsburgh doesn't. So for that kind of investment, and they haven't bought the whole club.
No,
they bought a majority controlling share in the club. And I was reading a lot of the Pittsburgh fans, the hardcore fans, aren't exactly too pleased with this. They like the old structure. They like the fact that Mario. I mean,
they like us. They like Liverpool fans. We want to keep the core and all that. So people didn't want David Moyes to sell Liverpool, but everyone eventually knew that was what we were going to have to do if we wanted to move forward. And credit to David Moyes, that's what he did for us. He needs to be remembered for that. But Pittsburgh Penguins, they love the routine of what they've done. I mean, someone mentioned it in the comments before, and they were spot on. When Lemieux took over, Pittsburgh were nowhere, and within 6 years, they won back-to-back Stanley Cups, and that is fantastic.
He was in my opinion, he's up there. He would be the football equivalent of Kenny Dalglish in stature as a player and as someone who has an influence over a club and a city.
Yeah.
So for this deal to happen, it had to come in with his overall complete blessing, and now the fact that he's staying in there as with a major voice is only going to be good for them. And look, we'll see how it works with FSG as well. I mean,
it's not going to be bad news for Liverpool. Put it that way. The FSG are not going to go right. We're focusing on the Penguins now. Liverpool, you're not going to get as much money as what you thought. And they're doing it the way they want to. But at the end of the day, it's not going to affect Liverpool as much as what people think it's going to be. Like, where's the Penguins' money, John? You know what I mean? Stuff like it's not completely forget about it.
Wait till you start seeing Penguins on the shirts. Everyone will go berserk then.
They're not my team, anyway. They're definitely not my team, but they're
not mine either.
What Laura says there about the owner of the Bruins, I didn't know that. The owner of the Boston Bruins has owned them since 1975, and his oldest son is in line is the heir apparent. He is the principal. Well, Yeah, and the thing is, what you find with the Kraft family who own the New England Patriots is very much along the similar lines. They're not. They will control that franchise for as long as humanly possible, and as long as the fans are happy, then they'll keep doing that. Laura's dead right. FSG treat teams like companies under a corporate umbrella. We're run independent of, and the Red Sox and the Penguins and the NASCAR and NESN, the Boston Globe, all that stuff is run separate as separate entities under one company name. You know, the policy with us is you can sell. People call it sell to buy, but it's, to me, it's common sense business. What you reap is what you sow. What you win in prize money, what you get in gate receipts, what you get in TV money, is reinvested back into the club via wages, via infrastructure, via transfer fees, and investing in the youth academies is going to be, from what I can see, their long-term plan to keep up with the Joneses, because we can't go straight up toe to toe in a fist fight with two oil nations. So what we're going to have to do is do it smart and do it through the youth academy setup. But all that is down to how the next 4 or 5 years of succession plans and all that lovely good stuff. But
there's always there's probably a midpoint in somewhere, because I think that's the long term. But there is always a midpoint where my thing with doing is there are times you think probably you can, if you want to, you could do a bit more. You choose not to. You choose to stick within this very strict way. But I always think, like most models, there's always a way. There's always a tweak, or there's always a calculated risk. There's nothing's risk free, and sometimes I think they're a little bit too risk adverse.
I think a lot of that might be due to the COVID times that we're living in, as we've seen
maybe but unfortunately, some of the fan base, and I can see where they come from, so I see that as quite a convenience excuse. It can, but it's always a. Next year we'll do big, but next year never comes. There's always something that crops up that you can't predict. The pandemic.
I mean, for me, you're looking at the games that were played in Europe across the continent this week, and so many of them were played behind closed doors, and only for the fact that you guys have got an incompetent PM, that the restrictions haven't become down harder and more severe.
You got to wear a mask now, mate. You know, they're taking it serious now.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. Not tonight. Fucking hell.
Well, give me a few more minutes. I might do.
The bread and butter. Yeah, we'll get into that in a bit. The bread and butter stuff of why we're all here, the Premier League, and tonight's game. I missed the end of it. Can someone of you guys in the chat? It finished 2-1. Was a late penalty or something? Was it? What was the story there? We missed it.
We missed it. I was kind of hoping for a Watford win because it would have put the pressure on the bottom three.
Yeah, no, I get that. First game tomorrow. Jay, we'll go to you first. Man City Wolves.
Yeah.
Do Wolves make it harder for City than most sides?
Yeah, I mean, Wolves. They gave us a good game, didn't they? You know what I mean? It was tough going, and like I said, they're under new manager syndrome at the minute, which is great. So it makes it tough. But what I love about City playing first is because it's like it puts the pressure on them. Do you know what I mean? And then it puts pressure on us depending on how the result goes. So it's an interesting balance. But but I don't see anything but apart from a City win, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I've gone for 3-0. What about yourself?
I'd probably go 3s, 4s, maybe.
Yeah. I think it's the difference, Chris.
I think Wolves will score, but I just can't see them winning.
Yeah. I thought 2-0. I thought City will get probably 2-0 at half time and then just spend the second half passing the ball around, boring them to death, because that's what they did. But that's not criticism. That's just how they play, which is we get a comfortable lead and then they're just very good at going down to walking pace. You can't get the ball off them, and that's the way they rest. It works. I mean, it'd be interesting if he picks Kyle Walker this week, because he was clearly pissed off. He was clearly pissed off with
not a happy bunny, was he?
No, and let's be honest, Kyle Walker's not a young player. It was just petulance. Yeah. He'll be a lucky boy if they only give him a 1-game ban. Because
I think it'll only be the one. I don't think there was violent conduct that they could add a second one on. But I reckon
they could. There was no attempt. He just volleyed the lad in the leg. No reason for it. It wasn't like I was going for the ball. He just turned around and volleyed him. You
wouldn't mind. It was a nothing flaming game, wasn't it?
I know. Well, Wan-Bissaka nearly got a 2-game ban, and his was he went for the ball, but obviously he goes over the top. He catches the top of the ball and catches the guy in the shin. It's a bad tackle, but it's he's not gone to earth to. It's just a badly mistimed tackle, and that was nearly a 2-game ban. They managed to convince him it wasn't violent conduct. The Walker ones, he deserves a 2-game ban just for being stupid.
Do City or do Wolves have threats where they couldn't get at our back four very often at all? Can they do anything different, do you think? Or are they so rigid in that we're not going to get beat to come out and have a go?
Certainly capable of it. Again, but nothing surprised me in the Premier League anymore, Kev. It really doesn't. We look at when we did win the title and Wolves beat City twice, didn't they? So there might be in the back of the mind going, oh, yeah.
Wolves probably damage on the break.
I fucking hated playing Middlesbrough. I was so happy when they got relegated. Not because I don't like the club. I fucking hated playing them. We never did well at the Riverside, and Wolves might be for City.
Yeah, but then again, Adama Traore is just...
He likes playing against City, doesn't he?
He does like playing against City, to be fair.
He's just a glorified sprinter for me. He's occasionally has end product, but it's like 1 in 20. I don't see the hype. Well, I hope tomorrow's one, but I see that. I mean, I've seen people saying to me, "Would you take him for 20 million?" Said I wouldn't take him on a free. If we took him on a free, I think we'd overpay.
Do you not think under a bet, because he had a good season the other year, didn't he? And it was a case of he was worth upwards of 50 million, and there was those rumours of him coming to us. And I think maybe in a better team, does he think he should be somewhere else now? Or is he a bit down in the dumps? Or he's not playing for the manager he wants to? You never know. Klopp turns shit plays into great plays, doesn't he? So
look, if you're going to go for that type of a player or a bit of a maverick, pay the money for St. Maximin. Pay the big money for St. Maximin, because he's actually got more end product in a worse team. To me, so if you ask me who do you fear more coming up against Liverpool, I fear St. Maximin more than I fear Traore. I think it's his pace that scares you, but I couldn't trust him to finish it off. Whereas I do think he's now St. Maximin's just going up a level. I mean, Newcastle probably look at they've got Rich Owners, because they didn't have Rich Owners. I think he'd have gone a lot sooner.
Right, Arsenal, Southampton.
Oh, Laura Duffy, brilliant. I would take Traore on a free and we'd sell him for a profit. I probably would, to be fair. Actually, yeah, that's probably what I would do.
Well, you were elected chairman, weren't you?
Well, I was elected chairman, but we won't go into that. No. I don't like to blow my own trumpet.
Arsenal, Southampton, Chris. I mean, Arsenal need to get back into. They're on a dodgy run at the minute, and some of the chances they missed the other night were shocking. They were absolutely disgraceful, and it seems like once they played us, they got a slap of reality, and that slap turned into a standing 8 count. You know what I mean? They haven't recovered from that. I mean, Southampton are doing okay and capable of a madness now and again, but
I'm with Barry. I think Arsenal flat strike anyone in the bottom half. They do routine 2-0 wins. That's actually what Arsenal are very good at, which is probably why they've got a chance at top 4, because they're actually very good at beating the bottom half. Yeah. It's when they face anyone with a backbone, they wilt. It reminds me of Liverpool probably post Rodgers sort of time, where we looked really good until we faced someone with a bit of a backbone. And you went, oh shit, actually, we're not actually that good. And I think Arsenal are in that boat. They're too reliant on very young, very gifted players, and they seem to think they're very misguided with how good they think Ramsdale is. He's a very good Hollywood save keeper, because you saw in the game, as everyone said, Ramsdale kept him in it. He cost you the first goal, and that was the key. That was the key goal. As soon as Liverpool went ahead against Arsenal, they had no chance.
Yeah,
and has he improved them, Arteta? A bit. Defensively, would I trust them? Not really. They've got a striker up front who looks uninterested. It's amazing when you get a new contract what it does to you. The only players I fear from Arsenal are Smith Rowe. Looks a really good talent. I just hope they don't overplay him, because that'll ruin him. And Saka's in the same boat. I'll be amazed if Saka's there in 2 years' time. For me, one of the proper top 4 sides will go for him. Yeah, because you would. He's brilliant. You could play him left back, left wing, right wing, centre mid, and he's brilliant in all those sort of positions. He's just a very, very gifted, talented, technical player. Personally, think he's wasted at Arsenal. I know it's good for him to be at Arsenal because he plays all the time, but if you said to me, Liverpool only going to sign Saka in the summer, I'll be all right with that.
Yeah. Jay, if you were going to put your neck on the block and your last fiver on scoreline, where's it going?
I'm going for a score draw on this one, mate. I really am. I think
Hassan Hootel doing a number on
I really do. I don't see Arsenal. They're just on such a barren run, like Racky said, and I don't know where their points are going to come from in terms of trying to get 3. I'm looking at a draw on this one. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I understand. I had it down as a 1-1. Listen, this next one. I mean, Chelsea Leeds.
I am Gerrard for this one.
Talk about throwback fixtures from bygone eras. I mean, I'm a lot older than both of you.
Are you?
Leeds Chelsea is serious football.
They don't like each other, do they? They really don't like each other. They really
don't. And Leeds I don't think Leeds could be in worse shape going to Chelsea than they are with the amount of injuries that they've.
Hasn't Bamford re-injured himself celebrating an equaliser? You'd want to kill him. You'd want to kill him for that one. Yeah.
Rodrigo, Koch, Bamford, Phillips, Cooper, all out.
Unreal.
Chelsea had their own injury problems. Kante, Chalobah, Kovacic, Chilwell, but
they should have too much against this Leeds side.
Has someone got a phone here?
It might be me. It might be me. Trying to find Ken Bates. That's it. I was trying to say it's the Ken Bates derby. That was it.
Yeah,
I couldn't think of it. I couldn't think of his name. I thought Chelsea got to win to Leeds. Couldn't think of his name. Ken Bates. God. But yeah,
I think. Look, personally, I think Chelsea are going to steamroll them 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I think they're going to go to town. I think Leeds are in serious trouble now.
Yeah.
They're getting too many injuries to too many key players, and I don't know if the owners have the money to spend in the areas of the pitch that they need to spend on.
Careful now, Kev. The owner might come start shouting at you like he did the last game. That was hilarious. That getting really upset with his own fan base for not winning. I put 2-0 because I think Chelsea will win, but I'm not convinced Chelsea have got enough goals in them. And it sounds mad when you've got Lukaku, but there's lots of games you're thinking like they should be 3 or 4-0, but they aren't. And the few times they have gone 2 or 3 up, like the Zenit game, they look so leaky. I mean, I think Tuchel's got away lightly, really, with that result midweek because he played a fringe side like we played a fringe side, but we played a fringe side because literally we're like, well, if we win, we win 6 out of 6, but if we lose, we're still top. Who cares? They had to win, and he played a real fringe squad, and then they threw it away in the 95th minute, and he got really annoyed over it. But I was a bit like, I'm not quite sure why you rested so many in a game that you had to win. And in a nice plus way, I think Zenit was the harder game than Leeds, who Leeds got missing.
100%, mate. But he's got a lot of stock, isn't he, at the minute because he won the Champions League.
Yeah.
It's one of them. I mean, when you can afford to make those decisions and stuff. But again, there's that risk now, and they've lost the top spot, haven't they, in the group? So
again, no, with Chelsea, they'll get Lille in the next round and be like, oh, for God's sake. It's just not fair, is it?
Listen, we said that the other night. Lille are a decent side.
Yeah. They're not scared. They're not scared of Bayern Munich, though, are they? That's the thing.
I tell you what, I watch a lot of French football. Lille are a very, very good side, very technical side. And with the likes of a Jonathan David up front, they've got goals in them. And it's more than what can be said for a lot of sides that are going into the last 16. I fancy Lille, if for argument's sake, if Lille got at Chelsea, they'd give Chelsea a good game over 2 legs. Whether they'd be enough to knock them out, I don't know. But they're one of the sides I wouldn't want to play.
The only thing with Lille is, though, it's what teams left after January. Because French football's still a bit of a mess.
Yeah, they won't go anywhere. It's like the Champions League money will sustain them for.
You hope so, but
a year.
We've thought that before in the past, and if you bid big enough, they'll do it. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, go back to Leeds a sec. Jay, do you think Leeds are in trouble? They're in a relegation fight.
100%, mate. You look how we're getting we're getting really close to Christmas now. When you look at the precarious position, this is where you start looking at the table, and it's really starting to manage itself now. Where you go, right, if you're top at Christmas, or you're close to the top, then you're still within, a shout of the league you're classed as. And it's the same for relegation. If you're in that zone or you're round about there now, you're in a dogfight, because the dogfights get earlier and they last longer. I know that's a really stupid saying, but it makes sense.
I know what you mean. We know what you mean.
It's crazy. So yeah, they're definitely in that fight. And to be fair to me, I expected Leeds to be in this fight a lot earlier, just from the naivety of when you come up. But they have been quite good since they come up, which is great. But now it's just biting them in the backside, and they are in a dogfight, mate. Yeah.
Chris, you spotted something. We talked before about Leeds. Last season, they became very practical.
And when me and Joe used to talk about it, there was some over-top criticism of a female pundit who made one remark which I think was taken a little bit out of context, and they went for her. But there was this story that Leeds are very gun-ho, and they're wide open. And to be honest, up until Christmas of last year, they were. And then January to May, they had the best home defence in the league. And they just closed the gaps a little bit. But they were still, when they attacked, they went with numbers and, was still the same. But they just went a little bit more pragmatic. When you say pragmatic, people think you mean Burnley. And it's not that. They just got a bit smarter and not being wide open. And since the start of the season, they've just gone, fuck it, we'll go back to throwing everyone up front and leave big wide gaps against teams like Man United. You go, and you're just gifting them. Now, the problem I've got with Leeds at the moment is that now poor tax by a manager who won't change, but you can't say anything about, you can't criticise Bielsa in some people's eyes. Or are they playing like that because literally the lads they've got, there's only one way they can play, and the lads they've got in replacing just aren't as good. So I'm a bit like, is it a bit of one, a bit of the other? So until I see Leeds with a bit more of a settled squad, I can't make a decision. But if they can play the way they're playing, they're going to be in a relegation battle. I personally don't think they'll go down, because I do think there's 4 teams worse than them comfortably. But it's just it's a battle you don't need. Look, I think Norwich are worse than them. Newcastle are worse than them. Watford aren't great, and Burnley are very in and out, but Burnley just always seem to fire.
Burnley have a bit of know-how. That's the only thing I think that saves them. And
we've been thinking Burnley's going to go down for about 3 years, and they never do.
The problem I see for someone like Leeds is Newcastle getting the January window right. Burnley stringing 2 or 3 wins together and a couple of draws, and they're out of it. And suddenly Leeds still have injury problems because they're rushing players back, and they're looking up at sides rather than looking down. I think that can happen very quickly. I
still think Newcastle getting it right, though, is a big if, because it's Eddie Howe. And look, I got lambasted for slagging off Eddie Howe because he kept Bournemouth up for 4 years. He did, but every year his transfers got worse and worse and worse. And his first Eddie Howe, when he spends small, he actually buys really good gems. When they let him spend big money, he buys the wrong players. He spent £22 million on Jordan Ibe and Brad Smith. I still can't. I mean, listen, I was laughing my arse off when we signed them. He spent 20 odd million on Solanke. And you're just looking, going, you just signed them. And listen, Solanke actually is doing quite well now for Bournemouth. It took him time to arrive. He's never a £20 million player, though. Ever. And it's that sort of naivety. I'm sort of thinking, like, who are they going to go for? Now, the only thing that could scare a Leeds or a Watford is if there's a player they want, Newcastle could outbid them for it, and they could actually pit rivals to key players. That could be the only thing. They're not going to go out and sign Haaland's, Mbappe's, and superstar players.
No.
They might get someone like a Coutinho on a loan because they can afford to pump his wages up, and it's a bit of a
Gini Wijnaldum on a loan.
Yeah, Gini Wijnaldum on a loan. Yeah, I mean, whether he'd want to drop that low, it's up to him. I personally think there'd be bigger clubs than Newcastle after Gini, but they could offer him stupid money, which might convince him to go back to the North East. I mean, he enjoyed himself there. So,
interesting.
Well, at home he did. Away from home, he just disappeared, didn't he?
It'd be interesting. Right, the big one for us, Liverpool Villa. Gerrard coming back. Jay, I'll go to you. How are you feeling about it? Because it's been a long time since we've had what we class as a proper legend in the opposing dugout.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about it?
I'm excited to see him there, mate. I am. But that's where it stops. It'd be nice to see him walk out. How you doing, mate? Nice one. But the minute that whistle goes, I hope he fucking crumbles. I'll be honest. I'm not no time for sentiment when there's a league title on the line here. I want 3 points against Villa. and nothing less. You know, good luck to Steven Gerrard, whatever he does with Villa. You know, fair play. I saw that stupid video about would you rather have Liverpool do the double or Liverpool do the league and Gerrard win an FA Cup, and I'm like, I'd rather do the double. You know, love Steven Gerrard, absolutely. You know, growing up, he was a hero for all of us. But at the end of the day, mate, he's got nothing to do with Liverpool at the minute. He's all Villa. So once that, like I said before, once the whistle goes, crack on.
How do you see their season going so far since they brought him in?
Well, I mean, obviously they've had that sort of uplift, and you know the new manager syndrome, and he's done well. You know, I think he did really well against City. I thought Villa were unlucky not to take anything from that game, so he's got them playing in a different way. I like how he's not a tracksuit manager, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in like he's come in and he's gone, right, I'm the fucking boss, I'm the manager, this is what we do, and he's got that attitude, and his interviews are great. You know, he comes across really, really well.
See the one he did with Cara?
Not that one.
I've seen that one, yeah.
You know, like his pre and post match stuff.
Oh yeah.
The way he talks, and he talks like he's still a player, where he's like, but he can be a little bit more honest now, which is great because I love seeing the honesty from people like Steven Gerrard, because he's got that personality. But I still think there's a long way to go for Gerrard in terms of what he can do as a manager at the end of the day. You know, Rangers he had great success there, but it's a different type of league, but I do think he'll do well at Villa. I do. If he can keep the mid-table, then he's done all right.
There's a guy in the chat there, Robbie Doyle, Villa. Robbie, if you're a Villa fan, how do you just chuck it in the comments there? Welcome and hope you're enjoying the show. Click like and subscribe and all that lovely good stuff. How do you think he's getting on? Are you happy with him so far? Love to know. Chris,
he's into a character go because he chose his words very carefully when he's talking about the previous manager, because quite a lot when the new manager goes, oh, they
don't talk about it at all, do they?
I had to run the bollocks off them, and you know, get the fit of they're just you know, to play my style, which basically saying that they're not good. They weren't good under the new manager. He was very good at going, there's a good squad here. You know, defensively they've got everything. Said they unfortunately went through a bad run, so we think defensively we could be a bit tighter, and that's what we want to do with this squad. But he mentioned Smith 3 or 4 times and was very respectful about him, which most of the managers are like that, to be fair to him. I think what he's done really well at is distancing himself from the. He's tried where he can to distance you're going to be the next Liverpool manager chat. Which, look, I've seen a lot of people say that, you know, and look, if he is and he becomes Liverpool manager, look, I hope he's brilliant. But there's miles before that's even a possibility, and also, if he's good enough, I mean, he's been very good at saying, if I'm good enough, because look,
I think that's very important.
Whether people like it or not, the owners don't look with sentiment and look at it's Steven Gerrard, the ex-player. They'll look at what he does as a manager and go, is that good enough for Liverpool? I personally don't think being the Rangers manager, winning the league at Rangers under the pressure he did, and say you get Villa into Europe and win a cup with Villa, I'm not sure that's enough to then go to a side that is, we'd like to think with Klopp leads, still challenging for league titles, still challenging for European Cups. I think he needs a bit more. The one thing I was impressed with, though, and people say it was at Rangers, was he got Rangers to back-to-back last 16s in the Europa League. A lot of people laugh at that and say that's not very much, but that's the best Rangers have done in Europe for about 10, 12 years, because apart from getting to the final, Scottish teams were crap in Europe. They didn't even qualify. They didn't get out the qualifier stage, so they were consistently, and then, to be honest, he never got past the last 16 because he just then showed how small the squad quality was, and you know there's only so far that will take you, where you just need a bit more, and you can only get round it so far. So that was a nice, pleasant surprise. Me was actually in Europe was quite good, and also look tactically, he plays a very different style to Klopp. You know, this is not he doesn't manage like he was a player. He was a free flowing, attacking, you know, wonderful player. He's very pragmatic as a manager. Very sit deep, compact, hit you on the break. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's how he styles manager. But I think some people got it in their heads because what Steven Gerrard, the player, was, that's how his teams will play. And you're going, they don't at the moment. Now, listen, he may say, well, I will play like that when I'm at Liverpool because I've got Mo Salah, I've got Sadio Mane, I've got Jota, I've got players of that ilk that I can do wonders with and do sex. I can't do that with with all respect, the players who got at Villa can't play that way. The players at Rangers can't play that way. So it'd be interesting how he evolves. But I'm just a bit like, just let him play. Let him manage. And then in 2024 comes, if he's the most obvious best candidate for the job, then great. But until he is, we'll also wait and see. And Laura Duffy, as always, hits on it. He's very Raffer-esque, which
very well. Robbie came back
because that's who
Robbie came back with a comment there. Villa's biggest problem was self-belief in the last few years. I think Gerrard has instilled that instantly. You can tell because of the confidence that they're playing in midfield, and I think they'll cause us problems tomorrow. But I fully expect us to get 3 points. The rumor is that Diogo Jota hasn't trained this week. The knock he took at Wolves has had him sidelined. So do we expect?
What did he do?
He had a knock in the game and he ran it off. And he stood in his foot, or someone stood in his foot, or kicked him in the calf or something. But he carried on, and apparently it was something after. See, this is the one thing that I like about this. I like about Liverpool at the minute is we know fuck all until the club decides they want us to know. And
according to some, that's the club lying to us. Remember all that last year? The club lies to us because they don't tell us when players are.
No, the club. Klopp lies all the time. Klopp is one of the biggest liars you'll ever meet. He just lies straight to your face.
He just does it with a smile on his face. You love him for it.
But how do you think the front three? Because I fully assume that we pretty much go as strong as we can. So
I think
who plays up front? Divock?
I think Origi for Jota's the only change. If Jota's a doubt, then I think if Jota hadn't got injured, he'd have gone the same 11 again for the 4th game in a row. But of that 11, only Salah and Mane played an hour. And to be fair, they sort of jogged around the AC Milan game because they're very good at saving their energy. The rest of the squad got to put the feet. Oh, Alisson, but to be fair to Alisson, he had piss all to do apart from hit the ball out of it.
So, Jay, what's your thoughts on D9 then? You've got R9, we've got D9.
I like that one, Kev.
It's good, that.
It's not mine. I nicked it off Matt Coppish, so give Matt his love.
I love D9. It's good, that. But it's throwing off in it because you're like, well, he's number 27. You're like, no.
+7.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We should get. Do you remember that in the 90s Serie A? Was it? Who had the plus?
Navarano.
He had 1 + 18, and in FIFA, it actually showed in FIFA 99 has 1 + 8. I loved all that stuff like that because he was so pissed off. He had the number 9 shirt took off him.
Yeah. Well, look, from what I was just quickly address this one. David Lennon asking how far is Bobby away from full fitness. Going by the type of injury he had, David, I wouldn't expect to see him for at least another 10 days.
Yeah,
there's a big difference between being back in full training with the first team squad, like he was yesterday, and being available to start. I think we might see him.
I think he'll be on the bench.
He might be on the bench, but I think what we did with Henderson when he came back is you bring him in for 15, then you bring him in for 30, then you start him for 60.
Yeah.
And I think that we've got very good at doing that.
What's that, sorry? Do me research.
We've got very good at doing that recently with Thiago as well, where someone will, you drop him in for 20 minutes at the end of a game. So, I mean, I expect Bobby to be fit and firing for the Christmas run-in. But Jay, Divock Origi, he's got an incredible goals to games ratio. When he plays, he gets chances. Look, I think if West Ham were looking for a number 9, they could do a lot worse than look at Divock Origi because I think he's got everything that Mikel Antonio has.
Yeah.
And he's younger.
Well, some players are not built for starting every single game and being world class like Mo Salah. But then you've got other players that are just there for the big moments, and Divock Origi is one of those players. And he reminds me of Dirk Kuyt, because Dirk Kuyt was one of those players. He was a striker that got pushed out to the right-hand side, and he was there for the big occasion. And you always need somebody like that in your squad, and Divock is that. And yeah, all right, we can look at, there you go, the West Ham game, for example. Was it the Burnley where he had that one-on-one chance last season? Just
Burnley.
You know, he was crucified for that. But when you look back at the stock that he's got, he's been brilliant. The last couple of weeks has been fantastic for him. And I made up for him as well because he could have gone somewhere. You know, someone would have inquired for him, but
he doesn't want to.
That's the thing. I'll give you both a quick question now. His contract. Would you give him a contract? Would you extend his contract?
Depends what type of fee you're going to get for him, because I do think the way the model is.
Look, I don't think he's going to get more than. I don't think you're going to get more than 20 million for him. So you're not going to buy a replacement for 20 million. That's the way I look at it.
It's one of them. If you ask us in the summer, it's probably yes, but now it's probably like no, I wouldn't allow. Keep Lord Divock here. It's crazy.
There's part of me that goes, bring someone else in, and if he's have to stay. But no, if he's have to stay sixth choice. Sound, because there's still games for him. I think people get worried that he's the first cap off the rank because he has. Look, you know, we know there's some of the fans that absolutely adore, and I get why they do. I mean, look, I asked it on social media. Some people got really upset by it. I said, "Is he the best cult hero we've ever had in the club?" And I meant not Premier League ever, because you go in. He's not the greatest player, but he does a job. But he's scored so many big goals now. I mean, there's so many YouTube highlights of Divock Origi's big goals, and you're going, a lot of these are winners and equalisers. You know, there's a couple like the West Ham game where we lost, and you know Milan the other night. But most of them are. He just scores big. He's only scored 40 goals for us, but half of them are big goals. And sometimes you're going, listen, we've had other clubs, and we've lauded players for a lot less. So I'm with the opinion of Divock that. I don't mind him staying, but I don't want that us meaning it's the front four we've got now and Divock. I'd rather be a front five and Divock. And he's just that plan B, plan C that he's just something a bit different.
I think Bejan Pops has a great comment there. You have to play him down the middle. He's not a left or right winger. And we've seen the best of him through the middle. Look.
Yeah, but some of his best goals though have come from starting wide left and cutting inside and bending it. He's done quite a few like that. So, but he seems better suited down the way we're playing because we seem to be going a bit more 4-2-3-1. I know the system is that.
I'm laughing at Red Steve's comment there about probably Suarez. Oh, sorry, cult hero. I misheard. I thought that just brilliant. That love that.
Oh, you'll love it. Listen, it makes a change. Red Steve's not shouting at us. So to be honest, I'll take that. So that.
Well, no, he's nice to everyone else. He just hates Gav. So we're all good.
He has his moments.
Listen, score predictions. How do you think we'll go?
3-0.
I'll go with I'm gonna be really old school, like I'm playing 4-4-2. 2-1 to Liverpool.
2-1 to Liverpool. We'll have that. I went 3-0. I want to keep a clean sheet, especially if we're going to go strong. Yeah. Villa have a threat, obviously, in Watkins. I think. Yeah. Leon Bailey, when he settles into the league, is going to be.
He's out, luckily, isn't he?
But I think he's going to be a hell of a weapon for them going forwards.
Yeah, I mean, lucky for us, he's out because
McGinn is tidy. David Luiz looks like he's settled into the job and the role.
They seem to be playing Macamber as a 6 now, don't they?
Yeah,
and they seem to tell Douglas
Luiz
to do what Kante does for Chelsea. Look, he's not Kante before people start going berserk at me. But telling a number 6 to basically do your destructive work 20 yards further forward. So when he's snapping at people and getting the ball, he's then laying it off to a striker or a winger 20 yards from goal. And that's what Kante's been asked to do a lot recently is let Jorginho sit. Your job is to do everything you do really well, which is snap at players, win the ball, harass players. Just do it 20, 30 yards closer to goal because if you win it back, you're in.
You're in, yeah. It's a really good... I mean, look, there's a lot of sides are catching up to that now. Some shouts in there. Richard Lefebvre, 3-1. 6-0 from Red Steve. Divock hat-trick. Stevie in tears. Get on it. Do you know what, Steve? In fairness to you, lad, you've been close a few times. You're definitely due one. Due one. Look, there's 4 more games to go. We'll just scoot through these quickly. Norwich, Manchester United.
3-1 United.
Comfortable?
I don't think comfortable because I could actually Norwich going 1-0 up because United are so wide open. It's untrue, but Norwich are Norwich. They're just...
I'm sick of the Man United loving it at the minute, though, since the new managers come in. It's like, they've changed and all that sort of stuff. Do me a favour.
They ran a bit more against Palace,
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just comparing the stats, the way they did it, it knocked me sick. I was like, oh, whatever. But yeah, I'm going for a draw on that one.
If they're going to play the same, if they're going to try and play the same way Liverpool did when Klopp first came in, we saw it. You're going to see a lot of injuries. And it's whether the squad can cope with all these injuries. Because look, we had people pinging hamstrings left, right, and centre, and it's because it's a hell of a workload that you have to do to play that style. And they haven't been playing that style of football for 2-3 years. They've been playing low block, sit deep, hitting the break. It's a different demand. And the one thing it'll do for them is, if that's the way they want to play, it'll wheedle out very quickly who does well. I mean, already the story now is Martial wants to leave. Whether that's true or whether not, we don't know. But this is where you'll start hearing. You'll start hearing the stories now. Who don't fancy this style of play and who does? I mean, look, some players like Greenwood and Sancho, this will be brilliant for them. This will suit their style of play perfectly. I mean, eventually, I think United will hopefully the penny will drop for them. Well, hopefully, actually, the penny will drop that actually play Greenwood through the middle, because guess what? He's just deadly.
He's really good.
It's like watching Robbie Fowler finish. He's so good at finishing, and they keep sticking him out on the wing. I'm like, just learn through the window.
Yeah, I went for 3-1, but I think they'd get a win. I watched them the other night. I said when I was on here, I watched them the other night, and the system that he's playing, it leaves your centre backs very exposed. It's going to be a facet, just as a neutral, if you can be ever neutral about Manchester United. As someone who I love watching football, they're going to be a great watch while this is happening, while this transition happens. If he gets it right, with the transfers that they're capable of bringing in, if he gets what he wants to do right, they're going to be a hell of a sight to watch. They really are. His ideas and the way he wants to play the game, the fans are going to love it. We all know people who support Manchester United, be it family, friends, whatever. They're going to be up and down like yo-yos for the next 6 months. But they have to understand that this is a long game, and it will get them where they want to be eventually. But so many things have to fall right for them. And it has to start with getting players out.
The summer's going to be interesting, though, because if he does quite well or really well, does he bin off him being an advisor and keep?
He's done it before, apparently.
Keep him on.
Yeah, he did it before at Salzburg. That he recommended himself to stay on as coach for another 12 months before moving upstairs. So I wouldn't be surprised if he likes the run of it, and the players buy into it, that he stays on as manager for another 12 months and see where the lay of the land lies elsewhere, because there's a lot of good managers around, but a lot of them are very secure in their jobs at the moment.
If he wants to continue that style, who they're going to get, though? In Nasser's way, they're not. I'm not suggesting they're going to go. They won't go back to a Mourinho type, because they want to play a certain pressing style, so that limits your options. Is it a Poch, who does like to play who can play a pressing style and is used to working under the director of football? But he's a bit up and down with Paris at the moment. Does he want to stay there, leave there if it's not him?
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan,
Barry definitely dare say he's 1-0. Ranić is the German Tony Pulis. I'll tell you what, for someone who hasn't won anything, he's built an awful lot of clubs to be very successful at what they do. He's if you judge a manager solely on what's in the cupboard, you're going to miss an awful lot of very good managers and a lot of very big clubs who generally go under the radar. Not everyone wins a trophy. There's only 4 trophies in England up for grabs every year. And
the biggest problem with United has been structure. That's the biggest problem. Is they've got no structure.
And he is the one person that's very capable of getting the structure right. I mean, look, I think they win. I think they win handy, but I think it'll be entertaining for sure. Burnley, West Ham.
Just before we move on,
United.
Jonathan put a funny comment in where he said United fans didn't know who Rangnick was 3 weeks ago. Now they think he invented football. I do think it's a great compliment to Jurgen Klopp, because it seems like everybody now is picking a German manager who wears a cap. Thomas Tuchel, Ralph's doing it. It reminds me of the Adam Sandler movie, The Waterboy, when everyone started using the water boy in the team to see if it worked. It just makes me laugh how stuff like this works. But again, let's just hope it doesn't for them.
In fairness, he's been around a long time as a director of football. He's built an awful lot of clubs. A lot of clubs have gone out and brought him in to bring clubs up. That's the challenge. And Robbie's right.
Yeah, spot on.
You're bringing a RB Leipzig, a Salzburg, what he's done in Russia, what he's done in some of the other German clubs, up to a level. But the problem is, if you're doing that in Germany and you're not doing it at Bayern, you're screwed.
No one notices.
Because no one cares. But the problem is, whenever the really big clubs want to go and buy the next starlet, they're generally knocking on his door rather than knocking on anyone else's door. Right. He tends to get a lot more of these transfers right than wrong. And whether Manchester United as a brand will allow them to do that is another question, because they're very much all about the shiny new things.
Can I say
they need to get that away. So Julian Nagelsmann's out because he doesn't wear a cap.
No, he's out because he's a bellend. That's why he's out. I cannot stand this man. Not much rattles me, but his face rattles me every time. Ever since the Hoffenheim game, I can't stand him. He's a really good coach. I'm not sure he is, but no. I dislike him as much as Gav dislikes Tommy Tuchel. I just can't take to him at all. So no, that's the reason why he won't because of Liverpool. So fingers crossed. God, can you imagine? I'd have to eat my words though when Levy came.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You'd be the only one on the sidelines, because in a few years' time, you say, I told you so, and you lot didn't listen to me.
No, I'll just say he's a really good manager, and he's one of he's still a knob though, isn't he? But
he's our knob.
Well, careful now. That's a different show.
Right, Burnley, West Ham. West Ham need this. West Ham need to get.
Where's my pillow? Where's my pillow?
Yeah, by hook or by crook, West Ham need a win, don't they?
I don't think they'll get it.
No, I don't think they'll get it. If it was, I was going to say if it was at Upton Park, if it was at West Ham, then I would say maybe. But with it being at Burnley and the way Sean Dyche sets up his teams there, I don't know.
I think 1-1. It's going to be it'll be last match of the day. It'll be dull this week. This way it's 4-4 now. Everyone goes, nothing, but nothing new there. But it just strikes to me as
we're getting there, Barry. We're going to scoot through these last ones now. Leicester, Newcastle.
What did I put? 3-1 Leicester.
Yeah, 2-1 Leicester.
I'll tell you what, I don't know on this one because Leicester are riddled with COVID and injury problems.
But Newcastle are riddled with crap players. So
yeah,
even themselves out.
Didn't you guys watch Leicester and Napoli the other night?
No, didn't watch it.
Didn't Chris? No,
saw bits of it. Yeah,
they went. I mean, it's the same again. It's the same squad. It's the same players are going out again as long as they come through their negative tests tomorrow. I think Newcastle could get a point there, purely and simply because I think Leicester are on their last legs.
So Jekyll and Hyde Leicester this year, aren't they? But they're very. Unfortunately, it's very Rodgers in Europe. We all
Tillemans back early as well. Tillemans is back early from his injury.
That's not a good sign.
It's not a good sign for me.
With Newcastle being so bad, even with these injuries, I think it's not going to be like a 2-0, 3-0 to Leicester. But I do think they'll just snatch a win.
Yeah, they had the firepower in Vardy to.
Yeah,
and they still got Daka as a backup, and Harvey Barnes is still fit, so they've got goals in them.
Yeah,
they're just a bit They've just been a bit flaky this year.
I had them down for a point and purely on that, because whether Newcastle are buoyed by their recent win and fancy it, after having another week. And Leicester, with all their travels, we know what the Thursday, Sunday can be like. I know it's been a long time ago for us, but it's not nice, and that can play in players' heads, especially if it's the same 11 going out again. I think Newcastle could get a point out of that one. We'll see. Palace Everton to finish off.
3-1 Palace.
Yeah, because I don't want to predict it and it come true. So as long as they have lose, I'm happy. But but yeah, I do. I think the Arsenal game will have given Everton a lot of confidence, though, and it might have just given that boost. So it wouldn't surprise me if Everton went to Palace and won. So I don't know. I probably would. I might have to go for an Everton win this week.
Get out. Read the room.
Yeah.
Get out.
No, it's realistic.
It's one of those games. Yeah, it could go either way. I think if Palace Palace being at home.
Actually, if it goes to form, it'd be a draw, wouldn't it? Because Palace got like 58 draws or something like that. They don't lose many Palace, to be fair. They just draw
if Palace turn up, they're capable of giving anyone in the league a game, and they're capable of putting 3 or 4 past Everton.
Defensively, Everton are shambolic.
Yeah,
but they got Richarlison back. The thing that's going to get Everton away from trouble is when Calvert-Lewin's fit.
Yeah,
when that will be, no one knows.
Gray's been brilliant as well, isn't it?
Damari Gray has got to have been
the one player he's allowed to buy with money, and what surprise, he's actually really good.
Yeah, he's got to be probably up there as the bargain. Not just of the summer, but the last 4 or 5 summers.
What was he? 1.7 million.
1.7 million.
Yeah, he always, even at Leicester, he always had talent. The problem at Leicester was he just had too many players ahead of him, and he's quite young. The German move probably didn't quite work for him. It suits him, I think I did think when they signed him, I thought that was a smart. I think it was a smart signing when they got him, because he still looks a good player. So I think
he's been very clever, because that's his shot window as well. He won't stay at Everton.
No. But he's doing all the things that are being asked of him. I think he's very good on that left wing, cutting in on his right foot. The goal he got against us was very typical of the goals he's had all season. He's very much take a gamble and try to beat a man and have a go. But Palace going the other way, Palace need to get a win as well. They've not been on the best run recently. So look, but there's the one game that's cancelled as well with Spurs. I've got to get this bee off my bonnet, and I'm annoyed.
Get your cans open, guys. Get your cans open.
I'm annoyed at the fact that Spurs have had. I understand why they've had it called off now, because of the amount of COVID that's ran through their club. But before we came on air tonight, myself and Chris and Jay, we were chatting about the COVID stuff, and the clubs have put in measures in place so strict about where the players can go, what they have to do, the measures that they have to take to keep themselves safe and secure, the testing that they go through. How on earth? This is what is annoying me. No one is saying anything, and if you say something, you're the worst in the world because it's about player safety. Well, if it was about player safety, then the Spurs fans would have been calling for the Leicester fans to have the game abandoned that Leicester played against Napoli last night. They didn't. They were quite happy for Leicester to play. So it's not about player safety. It's about performances and results, because the rules, as I know it, are as long as you've got 13 fit players, one of them being a goalkeeper, including under 23s who've played first team football, then you can play your games. Now, is it a case with Spurs that they don't have the players? Which, if they don't have the players, absolutely fine. My biggest problem is the Premier League are not coming out and making a statement of saying, look, this is the cutoff. This is what's happening. This is why it's happening. This is how long it's going to go on for. Clubs are left up in the air. Now, we're playing Spurs in 10 days, 2 weeks? I find it very hard to believe that any player who's isolating now at home, all of these players and staff are going to suddenly come back to train for a day and then play Liverpool.
Well, Klopp talked about that when he thought the Brazilian lads have to quarantine for 10 days, and he said it's not even the fitness thing. He said people laughed when he said, he goes, it's losing muscle mass, and he goes, and you all laugh. Said, but the way these footballers stay as trim and as muscular as they are is they're working the body every day. They're doing stuff like, basically, if they don't do that for 2 weeks, they relax. I mean, I'm sure people who go gym who aren't like elite athletes, it's a similar thing. I'm sure it's a similar thing. Obviously, I wouldn't know because I've never seen the inside of a gym in my life. But you get the point. Trying to, my big thing is, I don't know what the rule is. I'm not saying Spurs do anything wrong because they mustn't. They can't.
I don't blame Spurs. Listen, let me get this straight. I don't blame Spurs.
It's the process, because last year we had City cancel a game against Everton 3 hours before the game kicked off. And you're like going, what? You only threw out for the game. You didn't have enough players. You had too many with COVID, and the first team's riddled with it. But then you were fine a week later. Like that didn't add up either. So I don't blame Spurs, but I'm more of like Premier League FA. Just come out and say, look, games will get abandoned or games will get postponed, and this is the reason why. It is unless you've got X number of this, or like we found out with Spurs, it's because actually it's not just the player, it's actually through a lot of the club. So you go, well, fair enough, you've got to quarantine everyone to keep safety, but then what's the rules for going forward? Is it Spurs just don't do anything for 2 weeks? They're just out of the league for 2 weeks, and then they've got to do catch-up games in January and February. If we all know that, we go, fair enough. Or as Red Steve says, null avoid the league. That's the other option.
Well, it's not fair enough, because the biggest problem for me is they rescheduled games in January. Our lads are away at AFCON. How is it our fault that we're the ones now penalised because someone at Spurs brought COVID into their club by not following the rules that the club set out?
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone has got their own, me included, we've all got our own protectionist head on. But this can happen. It just so happens that it's Spurs. This can happen to any club, up and down the leagues, all 4 divisions, that a player can go into a dressing room, be asymptomatic, bring it into the dressing room, and it can spread. Now, I cannot for the life of me believe that we're 2 years into this pandemic and the Premier League don't have a set rule on this. Now, Jonathan said the Premier League doesn't have a set rule on it. I don't understand how that's possible in a multi-billion-pound industry that is totally dependent on fans turning up, on people turning on their telly to watch it. Every factory, every workplace in the country,
every company has a COVID rule,
has a COVID policy of
what
happens.
Has a COVID rule.
Yeah,
with the latest, this is not well with me. We were supposed to have a staff party next week, but because of what's going on in the world, it was just flat out, because of what's coming out, it's moved to January. Please work from home. And it was straightforward. If you get a positive test, you should sit home. You don't come in for 10 days. I don't care what role you're in. That's it. And if it's so many more in a hotel, I don't know what it is. There is a threshold probably where a hotel would shut if it gets to that point. Now, we know that. This is a hotel company, so football's no different. As Dinko pointed out last year, we played Villa's kids because the whole club they had 8-9 riddled with it. And again,
Arsenal started the season and lost games that they were forced to play.
Yeah. So, we laughed because it was funny for us because we got through to the next round of the FA Cup. Not that it mattered because we were out the next round anyway. But, taking me Liverpool glasses off, it wasn't right that Villa basically lost the chance to play Liverpool in FA Cup because they had to play their kids. That wasn't fair either, because they couldn't move the fixtures because that was the rules they brought in place, and it doesn't make sense.
And the other side of it is Spurs have lost a game against Burnley. They've lost this weekend's game. There's a midweek game that presumably is going to get knocked on the head as well. That's 3.
And
potentially
the Premier League Cup.
Yeah, potentially Liverpool is 4. That's 4 games to make up. And if there's knocked back into the Europa Conference League and with Rennes, that game has to be played by the 31st of December or it's default. So maybe they will knock that one on the head. But that's a lot of football that they have to fit in as well.
It is, mate. And I'm glad it's a Spurs problem, not a Liverpool problem.
This is the thing, it could be. This is where COVID is at the minute. It could be a Liverpool problem.
No, that's what I'm saying. In the grand scheme of things, how many games they're missing, absolutely. I know we're included in that one. But I agree with what you were saying. It's like if you've got enough players that are registered in that squad to play, then play them. But again, someone mentioned in the comments before, it's one rule for one team and one rule for somebody else. And the Premier League won't...
Or it appears that way.
Well, yeah. But the Premier League won't come out and say something because they will want to bend this rule, which will benefit them at some point. So if they set out a precedent and then at one point it'll be like, one of the big teams who can't be on the telly for some reason in a random country, they'll make a fortune. They'll bend the rule that way as well. So they can't come out and say anything anyway because they're too soft.
Was the Spurs game on telly? Spurs Brighton? Don't think it was it?
No, I don't know. It would have been internationally. It would have been.
It would be.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. But if it was like one of the big games, so Charles, Liverpool Spurs is the big game.
Yeah.
I'll be amazed if it's postponed.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether we agree with it or not, and people won't like us, there'll be too much money on that because that'll be everywhere. I mean, listen, we had the Liverpool United game postponed because of the fans invading. That would have cost Sky a fortune.
That was global news.
That's global news, and that's not a good look for the Premier League. And they lose a fortune if that game gets postponed. So
you can't. I mean, the way the world is at the minute, there's a separate rule for everything. So yeah, there you go. Ant put it in the comments there. People are still flying around the world at the minute. People are we're still going into Europe, playing international games. It's all that sort of stuff. Spurs, like Kev said, Spurs have obviously done something there that they've not followed the rules and the protocols haven't been in place, or that there's something gone wrong with the testing, because there shouldn't be that many people down with it. Not when we were like 18 months, nearly 2 years into into this COVID situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll find out in the next week, 10 days. I mean, the thing is with this, I had a bit of a ding dong with Matt Hayes on Twitter over the last few days, and it's nothing personal with Matt. But Matt put out a tweet later on in the day that one of his friends, who's a podcaster, who is a Spurs podcaster, has been taken ill and is now in the ICU. So, I mean, we're saying all of this stuff about football and what have you, all with the presumption, I hope people aren't taking this as if we're minimizing what COVID is and what it can do.
No.
We're far from it. We appreciate that this is a very, very serious illness that people can go very south very fast with it. And we wish him all the best. And we hope all the Spurs players get back to full health and full fitness as soon as humanly possible. Yeah. But my biggest gripe is with the league, that the league have to come out and give clear guidelines and clear statements about what's going on. When we don't need to know names of who's doing what in what club, but what we do need is a plan of action of what is going to happen for these players and what's going to happen for fixtures going forward. Because I know people with Leicester's situation now, I know people over here who are flying over, and the rules that have been brought in from Ireland to the UK is if you're flying from Ireland to the UK now, you have to go and get your PCR test here before you go to the UK. Then you have to get another antigen test if you're vaccinated, if not a PCR test in the UK, to come back. And that can take 2 days to clear, so you're staying extra time. So if it's a case that games are going to get called off at the last minute, you've got people traveling from all over. I mean, look, this is LFC Daytrippers for a reason. It's mainly people who travel from all parts of the world to go to Liverpool and go all over the UK, who are putting a lot of money and time and effort. And the family that I know are taking their kids over for their first game. It's their big Christmas treat. They've shelled out nearly $1,000 on this. And they're not unique or alone in this. There'll be flights from all parts of Ireland going to Liverpool for match days, and they're always full, and the lads will tell you when they go, they'll go on the boat or they'll get on the coaches or what have you over here, and it's an expense. It's a real expense, and it's not something that we're not privileged enough to be able to go every week. It may be once every year, once or every 2 or 3 years for some people, So all I want to see going forward next week is the Premier League come out and make clear statements about what the COVID policy is and what the clubs have to do, and so this in the future is avoided.
Yeah.
Anyway,
because I back Kev what you said. It's the protocol we're asking about, because no one knows. And also, if they come out and say, "Look, this is X, Y, Z, why it would happen," no one disputes it there. But also, it stops all this. Well, why is it different for them? Why is it different? Because the rules are there. Everyone goes, right, okay, fair enough. That's the thing. Like, I must admit, me and Kev joked, it's a completely separate subject, but this how unorganised the Premier League are. The Kasper Schmeichel hand on top of the ball situation is a rule change. No bugging you. The referee knew, but no bugging you. And everyone's going, that's wrong. That caused loads of disagreements. And then you're going, oh, it is a new rule. Well, if you like it or not, it's a new rule. We're like going, you don't tell anyone. And that's always the problem with the FA and the Premier League. They don't tell you anything. And then I mean, it's probably deliberate because it creates debate and content, doesn't it? But we are where we are.
We're going to round this off with a lovely bit of F1. So, Chris, grab your pillow.
Right, before I grab your pillow, it's also Women's FA Cup weekend. So,
sorry, Chris. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, I'm going there I'm going to Leyland to watch Liverpool versus Burnley. Don't ask me why they play at
Where's
Leyland.
Leyland when it's at home then?
Blackpool way.
How far is that for you?
About a 50-minute drive. So it's not too bad. It's not quite Sunderland like I did. Not Sunderland like I did a few weeks ago, which is still the coldest place I've been to so far. My God, it's cold.
What division are they in?
They're in I think they're the league below Liverpool. So I think the Northern Conference. So on paper, Liverpool hopefully should be into the next round. But all eyes for me are on next Sunday the 19th, which is Charlton at home. Beat Charlton at home.
Made a new signing as well.
Yeah, we signed another goalkeeper because we had Katie Startup, who was on loan from Brighton, who's been recalled to Brighton. And sadly, Riley Foster, our actual number 2, is currently recovering from a car crash where, unfortunately, she's broke, I think it's 4 vertebrae in her back, so she's currently got a halo on, and she's damaged her knee. So, I mean, I don't think
so. It's an emergency signing.
Yeah, because basically, at the moment, the only keeper we've got at the club is Rachel Laws, who's on number 1, who's brilliant, and a kid. That's all we've got. So we had to sign this young girl from Derby. Don't know anything about her. She might actually make a debut against Burnley, which would be cool. So that's a new one to see.
You can let us know how that goes next week.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Because next week's the big one.
What time's kickoff? Is there anywhere we can see it?
12 o'clock. It's apparently on LFC TV.
Excellent.
So there you go. So, and if you haven't got LFC TV, normally they put it on the YouTube channel as well. So there you go. Sunday game on a Sunday for Nout.
Happy days. Well, it'll be the pre-match show for the main event, which is the F1.
Oh, yeah. Just before you go on F1. Oh, God, if I get my pillow, where's my pillow? You think I'm joking? I'm going to sleep. If you do want to go to the Burnley game, literally, and this is a first I've seen, is you literally rock up. It's actually free admission. So you can literally take your family to a game for now. So, again, if you want to go and watch a bit of footy, and, you can watch, what's her name? Rachel Finesse, who's just broken the Northern Ireland record for goal scoring. So she's actually scored more now with David Healy. So, anyway, Sorry. You're going to talk about cars going around in circles. I'll obviously.
Well, cars going around in circles really, really fast.
Yeah.
Jay, have you been following the season?
I be honest with you, mate. No, not fully. I've been dipping my toe in and out of it because my cousin's a massive F1 and she's dragging me into it, which is good. So I've been in and out of the season, I'll be honest. So this might be a shorter conversation than you anticipated.
Robbie, F1 prediction. Hamilton will win due to clearly faster car. Do you know what, Robbie? It isn't. It was. I watched FP2 today, and in the long runs, Verstappen had a fractionally. It was. We don't know. It's hard to take much off of what is in free practice, but I think Hamilton's got the faster car to a point, but I don't think there's as much in it as what people think. Because
no, I don't think there is. But didn't he finish 4th though?
Hey,
didn't Max finish 4th in one of the practices?
Yeah, but I think they're trying out different suspension settings, different engine type, or different engine settings as well.
Yeah.
It's more for me. The season finale is going to be an absolute cracker.
It's the best for years, mate. It is. It's the best finale. It's the best finale you can ask for. Last race of the season as well. It's unreal.
Winner take all. You can't. And the thing is that Max and Lewis are so close in everything. I think Max is slightly the more aggressive. Let's be honest. 100%. I mean, did you watch the last race?
Yeah, did. And when he braked, and I was letting him past, which he obviously was told to do that anyway, and they couldn't understand it. But there was a few tactics he did try, which is why he was obviously dock points as well, and he deservedly was dock points. But again, it's like Robbie just put in the comments now. If there's a crash really early on, it's you know what I mean.
We've been down this road before. Senna, Prost, Schumacher, Manso, Schumacher, Villeneuve, and going way back in the 60s, it happened with John Surtees happened in the 60s with him and Roger Hunt. But with they've already come out when they said it before. what happened with Schumacher is he got suspended for half a season on the next year F1 glorified version on driving on the motorway.
Correct.
For some people, yeah. Look, I get why people get into it like me, and there's people who look at it and it is literally just fast cars going around the track. But because I was a mechanic, I worked with people who worked on F3 and they do pit crew stuff. I know the work that goes into it. It's unreal. It really, really is. It's massive. And the money that's in the sport is huge. But the gaps are so minute that you're talking fractions of a second, and every rule is being bent to within an inch of its life.
Yeah.
If Max tries to take Lewis out to win the world title, he'll be stripped of it and they'll hand it back to Lewis by default. They've already come out and said this today. I think the FIA are putting so much pressure now on Max to be clean.
Yeah.
That's got to play on his head every time he goes for a gap or goes for a move. It's going to be crazy.
Especially after last week.
And the thing is, all of the stuff that Hamilton, all of the gains that Hamilton has made, he's made because he took a grid place penalty and changed an engine I think it was in Mexico. And ever since then, he's been flying.
Yeah.
And Red Bull didn't click it, where Red Bull should have taken the same penalty and done the same thing. They never did. And because they did have the faster car by a street. Dangerous is the word, Kev. It could be. The brake testing thing, I've seen that go sideways before, where someone would not intentionally slam on the brakes, but go down through the gears. And what Max did last week was, look, I personally think Max is the most dangerous driver I've seen in years. And I think he will end up doing some serious damage. I mean, the only reason that Hamilton is alive is due to the halo system that's on the cars now, because Max crashed into him and literally his car would have landed on Lewis's head in Imola.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fascinating. And the best thing about this is Sky have done a deal with Channel 4.
Yeah, and they've been there, which is great. I love that.
The
and
fact
you know what,
that,
as well? The Abu Dhabi track it's stunning. It really is. I'm lucky enough to walk that track, and it's amazing. It's an amazing place to be. But to get more eyes on the product is great because I wouldn't call myself an F1 nut, but I do appreciate the sport and I do dabble in and out of every season. No, don't follow it obviously as well as you do, Kev. But when you're on the track and you're just looking around and you think there's a reason why this is the last race of the season because it's just stunning.
Yeah, it is. Paulie asked there's Kev, see how they gave the track a different layout. Does that make it faster? Does it favor either team at this stage? It does. It favors Mercedes. The Red Bull is absolutely brilliant on tight street circuit, tight chicanes, where downforce is a key factor in any race. This is a more flowing, wide speed track that gives Mercedes the advantage. But all it takes is a bit of debrief on the track, a puncture, and it can be decided in so many bloody ways. I can't wait for it. And more importantly, I can't wait for it because next year on Netflix, you'll have the Drive to Survive series on Netflix.
Really looking forward to that.
And then we'll get the deep dive and the insight into how this season really was.
Yeah.
And what was really going on. Ali hopes for Max, fingers crossed. See what I'm late for one, Kev. No. Hopefully no one else has either. You just avoid all those flashing cameras while you're at it. Look, I can't wait. I'm delighted that more sport should be on terrestrial TV. Look, I understand why it's not. If it's one thing that the 2012 Olympics showed is that sport and money are so intrinsically linked that money makes the world go around. And BBC, ITV, Channel 4 simply just don't have the ad revenue that they used to have to invest in sport like they used to be able to do. So this is why we don't have cricket on terrestrial TV anymore, where we only have highlights. And the downside is less and less people are interested in Ashes cricket.
I mean, to be fair, I think for the the cricket one day international final, they did actually put that on Channel 4.
They did,
as well as Sky, which I thought it's not ideal, but at least if you're getting the home cricket or the big match on a terrestrial, that's one way of getting a bit of buy-in. At least,
but it's so needed. I mean, sport across the board, I think, needs it. Look, there's certain sports I love and certain sports I watch with a passing fade, but if it's on, I'll watch it and I'll get into it. There's other sports like horse racing that I just can't abide, and dog racing I have a real bugbear with. But
that's how I got into ice hockey. I started watching Toronto Maple Leafs because it kept appearing on terrestrial telly. I got obsessed with it for ages. Then it disappeared, and it's harder to find it. Then.
Well, next year, Chris, I'm definitely going to get you into watching hurling. And I
fancy this because
have you ever seen hurling, Jay?
Never
Jay,
seen
we could do this together.
I promise you, mate. If next year, God willing, we're still around and we're still able to do this. When the hurling championship season starts back on, I'll send you links and we'll get into watching hurling. If you like hockey, you'll love hurling.
Should we do a watch along? Where me and Jake look really confused and you can explain what we're saying. Right.
See that fella there when he clattered him around the head? So that wasn't a free at all. That was grand. He didn't mean it.
Yeah, so you got
that.
This sounds great. Yeah. Hey, before we go though, can we talk about how Jay's Patrick Berger's best mate? This is his claim to fame.
Yeah, you better explain this one.
Just so people don't know, Jay obviously has his own YouTube channel with Mick Coppite, and Jay does origin stories, don't you, mate, on past players. So you've done one on Robbie Fowler, and you did a big one on Patrick Berger, which if you haven't seen, it's really good. As much as I take the mick out of Jay, and we do all the time, to be fair, it is really, really good. And then randomly, well, you can tell the story. What happened after you sent this out?
Yeah, so like you said, I made a documentary on Patrick Berger because him and Robbie Fowler are my two favourite players of all time, and I just love Berger and everything about him. And I made this documentary, and his son got in touch because he saw it and said, you know, that was amazing. My dad's on holiday at the minute in Croatia on a bike ride, but I'm going to show it to him. So I was like, my mind was just blown from that. And then I thought nothing of it. You know, I didn't get back in touch with him. And then about 4 or 5 days later, I just got a message on my Instagram from Patrick Berger saying, you know, mate, absolutely loved what you did. Really appreciate it. Because I got a lot of footage from when he was hanging around with his son and stuff like that. You know, it was quite, and he just moved to Liverpool. So there's some really good stuff. Though his family loved it. And he just said he was really appreciative of a 25-minute documentary on his Liverpool career. And yeah, it went from there. And we've not stopped talking since. So it's crazy to have that relationship now with one of my all-time heroes. And he's sound, and he's, you know, speaks to his son quite a lot. And yeah, it's really good. And then I made the Robbie Fowler one, which was 40 minutes. And then Robbie Fowler got in touch. So it's just like, oh.
What are you doing? I mean, what's Patrick Berger up to these days?
So he's doing a lot of ice hockey. So that's where a lot of mine and Patrick Berger's conversations come from as well. But he's always traveling. He does a lot of fishing. He doesn't really do punditry. It's not really something that he's interested in. But he just likes traveling around. So he's always on holiday with his wife. He goes away with his son and his daughter quite a bit as well when they do family stuff. He's just enjoying his retirement, mate. Just really is. But he has a lot of hobbies. Like he does a lot of charity bike rides as well, which has always been close to his heart. Like I said, he loves his fishing, and he's playing ice hockey, and then obviously watching the Reds as well. So yeah, still considers himself as part of the city and the culture, and yeah, he loves it.
That's fantastic. That's great. Listen, you guys seen the Nivea from in?
Oh yeah,
it's good.
If any of you guys haven't seen it, it's a campaign that I hope Nivea and Liverpool get behind. The bone marrow donation. I can't remember exactly what the details of it are, but if you watch the video and then bring a box of Kleenex with you because you're going to need it. Then watch it again a couple of times later. You'll get the name of the charity that's doing the bone marrow drive. It's something to consider. Blood donation, especially at this time of year, especially with what's going on in the world at the moment with COVID and what have you. It's the blood donation, bone marrow donation. It's something to consider. And you've all been on. You've heard. My situation, my story with donor cards and stuff like that. This is just another thing to consider. Maybe going into 2022, that if you want to give back in some way, shape, or form. And I think what Nivea are doing in conjunction with Liverpool for these heroes is fantastic, and it's something that should be applauded. And I don't think the club are doing this for brownie points or anything like that. I genuinely think it's a good, decent thing that two companies have decided to do, and long may it continue. But on that note, we've kept you guys here long enough. Oh God, it's nearly 11:15, and I've had no cans enough.
Oh, cricket's on. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, we're going to have to go.
Watch England collapse. Let's watch England collapse.
Jay,
come on.
Thanks. Where can everyone find you?
At Jimmy Cully. That's where my Twitter is. You'll find me burger and my Fowler documentaries and my pinned tweet. I'm halfway through episode 3 from one of our obviously ex-players as well. So I'll reveal that soon. And I'm currently doing stuff with Redmen as well. So I'm on Redmen TV as well with the Copite podcast. And currently making a movie about Liverpool's 1996 away kit. The Accrue one, shock horror, Chris. The
worst kit ever made.
Well, hopefully this isn't the last time we see you on here.
Well, we
would absolutely love you to come back again another time really soon.
Yeah,
Christopher?
Comments were amazing. Some of the
comments are always rocking. They're really great. Very knowledgeable people in the chat and the people stakers as well.
Great bunch.
So we love them all. Chris, tomorrow, LFC Women. What else is on
Sunday.
For the weekend?
LFC Women Sunday, and then obviously the Villa game tomorrow. So that's obviously I'm indoors playing football. So football for me all weekend. So sorted. Right. And then I wonder if I'll be watching the cricket Saturday night. I very much doubt it, but you never know.
So I'm going to tuck this lot away now, and I'm going to go in and make a coffee, and I say I'll be up till about 2:00 again. Thanks very much to everyone in the chat. You're all a fantastic bunch. Shut up, Jonathan. If there's a wicket gone, I don't want to know about it. Talk to you later. Love you. Good night.